Hey there and welcome back to my channel and to today's video where I will be using another new palette in my collection, also given to me by a subscriber. This is the Unity palette from Adept Cosmetics. It's very bright, very floral, but it does have some neutral tones as well. And I specifically want to just use two shades in here. We'll see if that morphs into more, but there are two in mind. While I do my eyeshadow today, I'm going to be talking about a prompt that I put on my community tab about 2 months ago, asking you guys to tell me some of your favorite quotes. I'm also putting on a little bit of lip product. This is the Glossy Lip Glaze from Kaleidos in the shade Hot Pursuit. It's a nice, cool toned purple sort of color. Very soft, not hyperpigmented, but it does fill the lips very nicely and feels quite gel-like. I like to put little prompts on my community tab asking you guys for favorite quotes or best advice, just anything as material, I guess, to create one of these videos so that I can chat about what has been meaningful in your life while I put on some eyeshadow. I'm going to start off in this palette with the shade Mauve Mist. There are actually only two shadows that are jumping out to me right now. Granted, they're all beautiful, but specifically today, I think I want to go a little bit lighter and a little bit different than what I usually do. So I'm thinking this one and this one. We'll see. But let's start off with these quotes because today's eye look is not going to be very time intensive, and there are actually quite a lovely number of responses here. Starting off with, I think it's pronounced Bolboreta de Lume. I'm sorry if that's not right. But they wrote, "Time is the final currency, David Crosby. Unfortunately, when we finally realize this, we don't have that much currency left." That is true. There's a Ben Franklin quote, I think. "Do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of." By the way, I have primed my eyes with the Glam Light Icing Primer, and everything I'm using is linked in the description box. I kind of want to create like a wedge shape with my matte right here. This is a beautiful tone. But yeah, time is pretty much all we've got. You know, life is just time. And it does seem that when people finally realize that, it's only because they're running out. I was watching an Instagram reel yesterday. There's someone I follow who has been fighting brain cancer for 4 years, and she just has the most inspirational messages when she hops on Instagram and shares parts of her life. And you know, she's talking about hitting items on her bucket list because she's trying to make as many memories with her children as she can because she doesn't know when she's going to go, of course. And she was saying that even though she's had more time than the doctors predicted, it's only within these last 4 years that she's really embraced the time that she has and is doing her best to make the most of it before it's gone. And that's what I'm thinking of with this quote. Amy Baker wrote 2 comments. The first, "Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings." That's a really good quote. How often do we have this really strong feeling and we just dive into some big choice or decision and then later realize, well, maybe that wasn't so wise because it turns out that was just such a short-term emotion and I've got long-term consequences now. She also said, "The more you nurture something, the more it thrives. Therefore, choose wisely." I like that one too. I think it's interesting the choice of the word thrive because it's easy to think of that quote in positive context. You know, you nurture a plant, you nurture a child, you nurture a relationship, and those things will thrive. But keeping the concept in mind of nurture creates growth. You could also use it in the negative sense. You know, you're nurturing bitterness or resentment or frustration or anger and holding these things in your heart and constantly feeding into them or nurturing them, and they're going to thrive. They're going to grow into these horrible beasts that take over your life. I think my initial reaction to that is very positive, but then I think it's actually quite true when it comes to negative things as well. And it's good to remember that. It's good to remember that and keep it in your mind that if you are feeding into negative things, they're going to grow just as quickly as if you're feeding into positive things. So that's a good one. I'm just dusting this outer area a little bit. Most of that's going to get covered. I kind of want to do like a two-tone, you know, matte and then shimmer on top. And I wanted to do a bit of a wedge shape. I should have used a smaller brush here. Maybe on the other side I'll do that better because this brush is not giving me any precision at the thinnest part of my eyelid. This user said, "Whenever something happens that you can't change, my 3-year-old son says, 'Now it is like this.'" And I always quote him when stuff happens to me, and it really helps. Hope the translation is right, I'm German. And then K-Roy responded, that's a good one. I do something similar. When plans fall through or things go wrong, I say, new reality, and state what it is. Like, new reality, I am unemployed. Time to look for a new job. It helps me get over the hump of denial and clinging to old frameworks. This is so good. And you know, I love that it's the wisdom of a 3-year-old, because for him to recognize, for the 3-year-old to go, no, this is where we are now. Now it is like this. That's so mature, and just accepting what has been thrown your way. Okay, now we have to deal with this. I really like that. I'm gonna pick up Balanced Bond. No, I was gonna do it with my finger. I think first I'll do it with a brush. This is Balanced Bond on a flat brush. Oh, but wait, it's the next quote. I don't know, I just think it's so mature of a 3-year-old to have that kind of wisdom and acceptance of whatever situation he's now in. Butterfly Girl Beauty wrote, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. That is an interesting quote. I don't know that I have personally always experienced that. Or maybe it's a matter of how you define okay. Because sometimes we have a desired outcome, and that doesn't happen. And so if it's not okay, it must not be the end. How are we defining okay? Is it a matter of, yeah, that's kind of cool, right? A little funky, definitely different for me. Is it a matter of life goes on? Maybe it's a matter of how you define the end. What is the ultimate end? Is it our perception of the end of a situation? So even if we're struggling with the death of someone or a very serious illness, the end might not necessarily be the end of that illness or the end of a life. The end might be, as far as we're concerned, the impact perhaps that person has had, and that's a good thing. Or the legacy that they've left behind, and that's a good thing. So maybe their sickness and death was not okay, but it also wasn't the end, because parts of them and their memory or their influence or their impact that lives on. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I'm thinking, or how I'm interpreting this. It's not okay until it's the end. But I would love to hear your thoughts, and if the original commenter would let me know in the comments if there's something specific in your life that you found, where you found this to be true, or where maybe it was hard to find it to be true, but you were able to see through the challenging part to get to whatever the okay is at the end. Because I didn't do a small brush at my inner corner like I should have, I let the shimmer overlap a little bit more to this part of the lid. I'm going in with a very small angled brush back into Mauve's Mist. And now I'm creating that really big wedge from the inner part. Maybe I should have laid the matte on top of the shimmer, huh? It's actually laying down right on top quite beautifully. Carrie K wrote, comparison is a thief of joy. That's a great one. I love that one. And I feel that so deeply within my bones, because I tend to compare myself a lot. I'm going to start the other eye, and I'm going to start it with this brush, as I should have done the first time. I feel like that's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote, but I don't know for sure. Let me know, or I can look it up when I'm editing, but I feel like that's Eleanor Roosevelt. And it is such a true quote. It is so, so true. I often struggle with comparison, and I find that the people that I have in my life, my circle, my influence, people I spend the most time with, depending on what kinds of people they are, their personalities, their hobbies and stuff, I compare different things. If I'm hanging out with a bunch of really athletic people, then I start comparing my body to theirs, physical comparison. If I hang out with a lot of intellectual people, I start comparing my education and all the things I don't know. If I hang out with a lot of really talented people, maybe really musical people, then I start thinking I'm not good enough, I'm not as good. And it's just, all it does is suck joy. The only time, and I think I've done a video about this actually, the only time it's helpful to compare yourself to others, the only time it's not damaging, at least that I can think of right now, is when you're using that point of comparison as the impetus to improve yourself. If you want to be an amazing sketch artist, and you I do calligraphy and watercolor painting, and the only people that I follow on my social media page for that side of things are people who are much better than me, because they inspire me to do better. I don't follow people who are basically at or below my own level, because I mean, I might feel like I'm rising above if I'm comparing myself to people who are doing basically what I'm doing. But when I look at the work of really, really skilled artists, it humbles me very quickly, and it inspires me to do better myself, to practice, to put in the time, to take the class. That is where I find comparison to be helpful. But in any other way, and I do this, I struggle with this all the time, in any other arena, I find comparison to be the thief of joy. And it's so good to remember that, because we are really good at talking bad about ourselves, putting ourselves down, and that's not productive. The format and brevity of that quote remind me of something which I think I read in Jane Eyre, which is that regret is the poison of life. When I muse on those words, I think on the whole that's true. Again, but there are some things in my life that I can look at with regret, and it's not poison, because I really, usually big mistakes or sins where I was so totally and completely in the wrong, and I hurt myself and others, I hurt relationships, I hurt trust. In those cases, I regret what I did, and I don't find that to be a poisonous effect, because it humbles me, but it reminds me of what I've done and how I don't want to do that again. So in those senses, the regret is actually what keeps my sinful self more in check, because I don't want to repeat those kinds of mistakes. With quite a small and fluffy blending brush, I'm going to continue with Mauve's Mist and just dust that on my lower lash line, I think. Or maybe actually, because I think I'll start it out here, because I've got the color much heavier out here, and then I'll like apply it fully out here, and then I'll just dust whatever's left on my brush over. So I'm not completely covering the lower lash line with this shade. It's just sort of whispering away as we get closer and closer to the inner corner. And the last quote was from Blend of Days. They wrote, "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." I've heard this so many times in my life, and I think it is really resonating with me more now than ever before, because I'm in a season of life where I've got little kids, and it's so easy to say, oh, well, I'll do this thing when the kids are grown up and out of the house. That's like an 18 to 20 year commitment. That's potentially a quarter of your life, or less, maybe a little more, but that's a huge chunk of your life that you're just waiting for the next season, waiting for the next age, waiting for the next milestone. And in the meantime, you're still living day to day, and it's easy to get lost in the day to day, and it's easy to, just waiting for bedtime, just waiting till they graduate this grade, just waiting till that project is done. Again, in the meantime, you're still living. Every day of your life, you're breathing, and you're making things happen. But you're sort of dreaming of the someday. And it's quite true. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Maybe you'll get that someday and all the dreams will come true, but none of us are promised tomorrow. The longer I live, the more I hear of people who didn't even make it to my age, which is only 37. And I mean, a lot of people I know, they died young, and I realized they never had even these years that I'm having, and I won't say wishing away, but sort of slogging through now and then. I have a 13-year-old, so we're starting with all the hormones in high school, but I also have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and that is enough to keep me busy. I just found a little picture online, and I actually liked it so much because it was just so endearing and cute, but also very topical, very critical for my mindset in this season of life with little children, that I happened to be printing some pictures at Walmart, and I threw this one in there, and I've made like an 8x10 of it. But it's a picture of a little mother mouse in the kitchen serving her little baby mice, and they're all sitting at the table and they're just looking up at her adoringly. And the caption is, "Silly me, here I was wishing away what I'd always hoped for." Something like that. And I put that picture in my kitchen just because I need that reminder more often than I'd like to. I need that reminder of this is a beautiful life that the Lord has given me, and a beautiful life that my children have, and I want to make it something that they treasure and are grateful for. I want to give them a good foundation. I want to be able to impart our values and principles and morals, and develop their character and give them a good education. All these things happen in my children's earliest years. I don't want to be wishing those years away because I'm busy making plans for the future day, which I may or may not get. A simple finish for a simple eye look, a little bit of purple in my waterline. This is Plum Smash from ColourPop, and some mascara. And then on my face, I have just a dabble of the Spring Magic blush palette from Unearthly. I dipped into these two, the pink and the orange. Again, quite lightly. I don't like a heavy blush on myself. But that's it. That's the whole video, and those are all of your quotes. I think I got them all. Apologies if I missed one, but I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you very much for adding in the quotes that you have enjoyed throughout your life, things that maybe have encouraged you or helped you regain your footing somewhere, or kept you with the right perspective as you go through a season of life. I enjoy interacting with you guys so much. Thank you for being here and for clicking on my video at all. Let me know what you think about today's eyeshadow look. Let me know I picked up the wrong thing. Let me know if you have this palette, if you like it, what your thoughts are, what your favorite thing to do is with this palette. Maybe just, this is like nothing but one and dones, right? Even the mattes are beautiful, but these shimmers, they remind me of the Flying Fiddles. I just love the formula so much. This is my ideal shimmer formula. It's lightweight, it's sparkly. Can I get an amen? I appreciate you for being here. Thanks for clicking on my video and for giving me a piece of your day. Perhaps you'll consider liking and subscribing if you want to see more content like this. I do tend to upload a couple videos a week, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.